question, how does this image make you feel? Excited? Hopeful? Maybe we're trying to manifest some of this in our future? Or maybe it makes you feel a little stressed, a little anxious. Maybe this has been weighing on your mind lately. Sorry, trigger warning. Well, believe it or not, the $100 bill was always designed to make us feel something. Same as the 20, the 5, and of course, our boy, the 1. These are some of government's most important designs, artifacts created with an almost surgical level of precision. And it's not just true in the US. When you look at currency around the world, you can start to see the care and attention that's devoted to its design. Intricate patterns, detailed illustrations, vivid neon colors and gradients, metallic foil textures. There's actually a very important graphic language living just beneath the surface of all currency around the world. It's a language that's as deliberate and universal as it is old. And whether we like it or not, it's familiar to us, especially as designers, because it's designed with intention. A system that comes together to make us feel a particular way about money as a symbol. That we should cherish it, respect it, and most importantly, trust it. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm a creative lead at a financial technology company called Plaid. You may actually recognize our logo anytime you try to connect your bank account to a fintech app like Robinhood, Venmo, Coinbase, et cetera, and that would be one of our more visible products, Link. But more broadly, we provide companies the APIs to power all those amazing digital financial experiences and services you know and love today, companies who are literally reinventing what money looks and feels like in the modern age. And with so much innovation in finance today, you'd think by this point we would have developed a healthier relationship with our money, but 59% of consumers still say that money is a really big source of stress, myself included. And we can also layer some AI on top of that. That's right, we all know this. The robots are here, and they are doing way more for us than a Roomba ever could. And yet, only 17% of Americans still say that AI will have a positive impact on their future. Ugh. Who, or what, if anything or anyone, can we really trust right now? A brand design system does many things, but most importantly, it signals to the world what you stand for. It's a series of symbols, a language, that gives your audience a way to connect their values with yours, to help show them that you believe in the same things they do, that they, in short, can trust you. And at Plaid, our brand system really wants to answer the question, do we really trust money? After all, it doesn't look the same as it did 100 years ago, 50 years ago, or even last week. And like many of you in the age of AI, we've found ourselves looking towards some new tools that kind of scare us to experiment, tinker, and evolve our brand. Which begs the question, how do you build trust using tools you might barely trust yourself? When we talk about progress in tech, we often talk about speed. But for many of us designers, the reality is a lot different. Progress takes time. As designers, it's actually our job to advocate for deep thinking, for empathy, for a process that's really slow, deliberate, and intentional. This is a screenshot of the Plaid design team in 2019. And this is actually where we first began our weekly crits, where we met in person every week as a small group, had a beer, printed out work, and just talked about where we wanted to take Plaid next. This is what that process kind of looks like today. And this might be familiar to a lot of you. At Plaid, we design very much in the open, saving all of our ideas across pages and pages of FigJam files, which we'll sometimes rifle through whenever we need inspiration. And these digital archives have become for us a living, breathing well of weird ideas. And so when Plaid embarked on its first major rebrand and tasked us with doing it all in-house, we started to look for inspiration here. which led us on a year-long journey of experimentation, a different way of branding that encouraged us to discover what the brand needed rather than define it right from the beginning. And that journey really began with this image, an idea tucked in a fig jam from some strange corner of Plaid's past, meant for another project entirely. You might recognize these patterns. Gouache patterns are those intricate, repetitive webs of interlacing lines found on the borders and backgrounds of paper currency all around the world. And the patterns were first created on luxury items like snuff boxes and watches using ornamental lathes. In the 1820s, this technology, specifically the rose engine, which you see on the left there, was applied to banknote printing to create complex rosettes and borders that were really, really difficult to replicate by hand. Now, historically, gouache served as this sort of visual algorithm that protected currency from forgery. Because the patterns were generated by specific mechanical settings, reproducing the exact same design with a different machine was virtually impossible. And today, while no longer the primary defense against advanced counterfeiting, gouache still provides instant integrity. The public has come to associate these complex designs with authenticity, with trust. Now, unlike traditional gouache, Plaid's patterns are a little more immersive and dynamic. They shimmer with iridescence, they guide our users through flows, they frame, they elevate, they interact, and we procedurally generate many of them so that every pattern is unique. And of course, AI is sometimes used to generate concepts or scale our patterns, and we've even built tools that allow anyone to make their own gouache, adjust the size and spacing, the color, the stroke weight. And since then, we've made patterns that ripple and bend, flatten and link, expand and contract. They've become a metaphor for our financial network, something that is always evolving and changing. And of course, none of this would have been possible if we didn't use AI and a little vibe coding to test, build, refine, and repeat, to scale our idea from a single image buried in a Figma file. Slowness, detail, repetition. It's not always the asset that creates trust, but how it's made. And this became sort of the theme of our new system, inspiring an illustration technique that was sort of sitting right in front of us. Woodcut is a printing technique where images are carved onto a wooden block and then inked and pressed. In fact, the world's first paper money in China utilized woodblock prints, which featured these intricate forgery-proof patterns along the edge. By the 18th century, American engravers began experimenting with copper plates, which allowed for even finer detail than woodblocks, eventually transitioning to steel engraving in the 19th century. This complex and really detailed illustration style has become synonymous in the modern eye with sophistication and legacy, and most importantly, trust. We don't see this old school style used a lot in our industry because it's complicated, dense, and costly to create. You may be sensing a theme here, right? Trust and time often go hand in hand. We decided to enlist the help of an artist, Tatiana Tricos, who could replicate this style by hand. And with her help, we found fun ways to remix and reinvent what money could look like in the modern age. And of course, we started working with her in the old school way, if you remember, pencil and paper. So we started sketching out our ideas, but she didn't live in the US, so she didn't always have the same cultural understanding of US currency that we did. And so we started using AI mockups to help her explore some new concepts. And actually, as we started to generate them, we even considered shipping some of these AI versions. They were cheaper and faster, but they weren't quite right. The texture and detail was always just a little too liquidy, and I don't know, sometimes AI would give Abe and Ben this sort of like sultry stare and plump lips. I mean, I don't know, anyone in AI, why are image generators always making our founding fathers look kind of glammed up? I don't know. Are you seeing this? Well, AI gave us a great place to start, right? It was a baseline, which surpassed everything from language barriers to geography to even taste. And that gave us more time to evolve the work by hand. And for us, this is really crucial. When dealing with an art form based on currency, cultural awareness and attention to detail is really important. After all, not everyone, including our robot friends, have the same relationship to Benjamin Franklin or the Queen of England or a Canadian goose as the people who recognize the symbolic nature of their own currency. I suspect a lot of us might be building like this today. quick AI mockups, quick dialogue with an artist or maybe your leadership team, and then some handmade assets designed with care, sometimes on the other side of the world. Today, we're able to turn around a detailed illustration with our Illustrator in a matter of days. And then later, we take our drawings to our cell animator, Jess Roden, who hand draws each frame, a process that AI animation tools today simply can't replicate. It's that final step of hand-drawn detailing that really builds trust, not just with our customers, but really with our own design team. The process itself gives us confidence that each piece is made hallucination-free. And at Plaid, we're constantly trying to show the world that money can evolve. But reinvention doesn't always mean breaking what already exists. Sometimes it just means taking some trustworthy language from the past and rewriting it for the future. AI accelerates our ideas, but not necessarily our timelines. It just leaves us more room to build with intention and play. So thank you, AI. Now, if you can't tell, I love AI. I think it's super cool. But I do think it's an appropriate moment to address the robot elephant in the room. AI is cool, but it's also kind of scary, especially when it comes to things as precious as our money. And I wish I could say, don't worry, your money is safe. AI hackers are not going to get into your bank account. Everything's fine. But that wouldn't really be totally true. In recent years, we have seen some bad actors try to take advantage of the financial system and break our trust in it at an alarming rate. In fact, first-party fraud is becoming much harder to distinguish from legitimate behavior, and it now accounts for about 36% of all reported financial fraud incidents globally, which is up from 15% last year. So for our first major out-of-home campaign, we really wanted to call attention to that. So we drafted a headline that we felt captured the moment. The fraudsters are coming. But how do you visualize that? And at the time, our system really only had illustration, pattern, color, type. Our brand really wasn't fully baked yet. So since AI is only as good as the inputs you give it, we fed our machines handmade artifacts from our brand's living mood board. And weirdly, AI wasn't great at mocking up woodcut illustrations, but it really wasn't bad at mocking up oil paintings for some reason. AI took our inspiration and really blended the old and the new with this kind of dreamlike art style, which landed us here, this image of Paul Revere riding through the night, wielding a laptop instead of a lantern. We liked it because, LOL, but we also liked it as a symbol of the beauty and the danger of AI. And then we worked with Overall Murals to paint the work, and we actually gave them permission to correct the pieces, adjust them with actual eyes and hands. Here you can see Paul coming to life, brushstroke by brushstroke. The painters took the concept, and I think made it their own, evolving the idea into something that I kind of think speaks to its own strangeness in this world that's both human-led and machine-made. And of course, we worked with our illustrator to sketch out the idea in woodcut so that it could live well beyond the one moment. And from our experience, AI can really help scale an idea, but that extra attention to detail, of focus and finesse, that's what really gives it longevity. Working in tech, surrounded by AI tools in our day-to-day lives, there's a tendency to think that the future of finance will be driven by the digital. And that's not entirely wrong, but I don't think it's the full picture. Money is and always has been physical as well as digital. It's meant to be exchanged, connected, moved, and stored. It's a tool. The machines that hold it, that move it, that monitor it and transform it are tools too, part of a larger ecosystem that straddles the world of the material and the ethereal. Now, it's kind of weird for me to be a designer in tech to be saying this, but hold my hand when I say it. I don't know if I really love being online right now. AI this, AI that, we're always behind, we're always too slow. It's just a little exhausting on there. And as much as we love to build and digest software, I think, at least some of us, we all crave a little bit more now than ever, this feeling of connection and conversation. One of the few things we can trust is that meeting face-to-face is really different from meeting online. And that trust happens much faster when we look each other in the eyes and say, hello. Even here at Config, I have to wonder if the reason we're all in this room right now is to remind ourselves on a very human level that we need this. We need to talk to each other. Our in-person events over at Plaid have sharply increased over the past few years, correlated, I believe, at least in part, due to some digital fatigue. In fact, the resources we put behind events has basically tripled or more in one short year. Isn't it interesting that despite the technical revolution of AI, we're investing more in meeting in person than ever before? And now, designing physical spaces is really hard. And if you've done it, you know, so shout out to the config team. I won't bore you with yet another AI demo, but you get it. AI is really good at simulating space. And we use image generators, Claude Code, Figma, and countless other tools to imagine, adjust, refine, and render a look well before we have the opportunity to pick up a yardstick. And blending AI mockups with historical references lets us explore worlds we never thought possible, and then pitch those ideas to agencies and production houses who specialize in that type of design. Take Plaid's keynote conference, for example, which took place in New York last month. AI let us go wide and pitch something kind of bold, illuminating the Cipriani building in Wall Street entirely with this dark mode aesthetic, reminiscent of black lights and security strips. And what we ended up constructing in the real world was pretty close to what we dreamed up using AI. And in my opinion, this is where AI can really thrive, generating these wild ideas that give us some permission to embrace really complex physical builds. Our experiential brand quite often inspires our digital brand and our design system, not the other way around. And that's intentional. We hope that no matter where you see our brand, the colors, the materials, the shape of that system reflect our true values, that we want to connect with you, have a conversation, that we need to trust each other if we're going to rebuild trust in finance itself. We're being told time and time again that AI will replace people, that doing things by hand will die, that we're addicted to everything made of pixels, and our industry would be quite happy if we never left the boundaries of our phones. But then I see companies like ours investing even more in physical space and watching how our customers run to the opportunity to connect, not necessarily to Plaid, but to each other. And I have to wonder what's really happening. Earlier this year, we did another experiment. We took over a coffee shop in New York called Fellini as part of a campaign highlighting our favorite customers. And we only had a few days to put the pop-up together, but of course, with the help of AI, the idea materialized at rapid speed, turning some of our hallucinations into some hard signage. And of course, it wasn't fancy, but AI did give our creative team permission to test out our brand voice in kind of a unique way. We even brought Benjamin Franklin to life, who put his woodblock printing skills to use with a modern heat press machine, hot off the press-on with Ben, which, I mean, adorable. The coffee shop was small, way smaller than Cipriani, but people crowded into tables, waited in line for swag, chatted on the street. It was designed to connect with our customers, to get off our devices and chat about the problems we're all facing as we try to build a better financial system. I show this smaller example for a reason. How we show up, big or small, does make a difference. We design physical spaces to remember and connect, to see each other face to face. Even if it's just to make someone smile, I think connection and community are going to be some of the most valuable pieces of currency we have as we enter this crazy, crazy new world. There are a lot of headlines floating around right now that are, quite frankly, news to me. Design is dead. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. As if design has taken on some terminal illness and we're all supposed to watch from the sidelines as she wastes away in her bedchamber. And it's not just our industry. There's a lot of fear brewing, a lot of generalized anxiety that today or tomorrow, AI is going to Thanos snap our jobs out of existence. And for some of us who've been in the design industry for more than a minute, this isn't new to us. We've heard it before. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not creative enough. You're not fast enough. And pretty soon, your career as you know it will go poof. And maybe for some of us in the room right now, especially the younger generation of designers just coming up, maybe it feels like it already has. Has that ever stopped us before? When have we ever stopped making stuff? I don't think the future is that black and white. At least at Plaid, we're lucky to partner with a swarm of agencies and artists around the world, animators and musicians and painters and actors and writers that we never would have worked with if we didn't have AI to move quickly and bridge gaps in language and culture. This is just a small list of some of the ones featured in this presentation alone, but needless to say, I've worked with more creatives in the past few years than I have in the entirety of my career. Our illustrator lives in Europe. Our typographer lives in Tokyo. We've partnered with photography teams in Brazil and event designers in Australia, and the list goes on and on. And in this new world, we always try to ask our partners what they think about AI and sort of bake the rules ahead of time into the contract. Some of the things we like to ask them are, can we use AI to learn from your art or not? Can we concept with AI? Do you concept with AI? What is your value system in regards to AI? And how can we explicitly agree on the rules of the road ahead of time? Art and design is subjective. And as long as that's true, it's going to be really hard to teach a machine what's good, because even we as humans have trouble agreeing. And I think that disagreement, that dialogue, that friction, that's really where the magic happens. Whether we're discussing a new tool with our agency, or playing around with a new art style, or pitching something kind of wild to our C-suite, the tools help us experiment quickly and think deeply all at once. Now, let's be clear. I don't love design tools. I really love what they let me do. And as the tools evolve, so will our designs. And I think that's kind of exciting, but also a little scary. And that's OK, too. We didn't choose this profession to play it safe. Because AI really is only as trustworthy as the trust you put in it. And your trust is more valuable than currency. So when you give it away, I invite you to ask yourself, what do you know to be true? Who or what can give you the right answer? Where can you be inspired? Sometimes it's a tool, or an artist, or something from the past, something you never expected right in front of you, on your screen, in your pocket, hidden in conversation with someone unexpected. Sometimes it's nothing at all, but rediscovering the joy of experimentation, of play. It might be as simple as trusting the right tools for the right designs for your team, your audience, and most importantly, yourself. After all, the future has always been machine-made, but human-led. For us at Plaid, AI is a paintbrush, not a painting. The tool was never the craft. So I invite you to test, to break stuff, to be brave, to think deeply, to trust the people you're designing with and designing for, to trust yourself again. And maybe, just maybe, we can all find the joy in design once more. Thank you.